us a story, Uncle John?
I'm the Mad Hat Cat, 1/4 of us three blokes. I was going to drink wine, but it would have had to been red wine, and I get terrible wine mouth, so off the table. And then I was going to drink an Aperol Spritzer out of the Vampire the Masquerade martini glass, but I can't find it anywhere. But it's okay, because I found a mysterious bottle full of red liquid.
Wow.
Oh, very nice.
We'll find out
Nice.
if it tastes any good.
Today's choices are, it's a Belgian thing apparently today. New Belgium, 1554.
I love how Dave is surprised about what he's drinking. He says it's a Belgian thing, apparently.
Well, that and also Lucky Bucket Spiced Belgian Abbey Ale. I grabbed 2 bottles at random. They're both Belgian. That's a thing, apparently.
Okay, I'm Dan Carlson, 1/4 of us three blokes.
I'm John Kadolf. I am 1/4 of us 4 Lost Boys.
I'm Dave Nesbitt, another 1/4 of us 3 people, blokes. And I have shiny buttons and beer.
Ah, and you're a staff member of something. What does it say on your shirt there?
Nebcon staff.
Oh, cool.
There's a anime convention that takes place out here. And for the last few years, I've been part of their photography team. So I get to wander around and shoot people in cosplay. It's awesome.
This week, John shows our film. It is a movie that never gets old.
Never dies.
No matter how many hundreds of times you watch it, and I have watched it hundreds of times.
Never gets old. It never dies.
Yes. What is it, John?
It is The Lost Boys.
Yay!
Yay! And since you chose it, let's hear your rundown.
2 boys and a mother moving from Phoenix, Arizona to Santa Clara, California, to move in with Grandpa, because Grandpa has a house, they don't, because things happen, the divorce and everything, and no money left. And as they're driving in, they see the sign that says on the back of it, it says "Murder Capital of the World," just as "People Are Strange" starts playing, which is perfect for it.
Yeah.
And they get to Grandpa's laying on the porch. So Grandpa, I see myself being kind of like Grandpa.
Me too.
I can see it.
Laying on the porch. They all walk up and they think he's dead. Sam goes, "If Grandpa's dead, can we move back to Phoenix?" And then he's like, "Not dead, playing dead. Doing a fine job of it, as I see."
We were just mentioning earlier, the fact that they're moving from Phoenix, Arizona to an area very close to the boardwalk in California, and they're complaining about the move like it's not the greatest thing that had ever happened to them. You're eating maggots, John. How do they taste?
They are maggots. Oh, he did it. Yeah, he got me again. Oh,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah. Oh my God.
Good thing I was
Bastard.
recording.
Oh.
Just pick them out of the rice. It's all good. Look, all I'm saying is a little sweet chili sauce on there fixes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I had one stuck in my tooth.
I have learned this lesson the hard way. For our audience out there, should you meet John, never ever dare him to do anything. Put a maggot on his lip, ride on the top of a car. He'll do it.
I will do it.
He can vomit on command too.
Yeah.
That last one comes in handy though, especially with some of the stuff that we've been known to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, about what we expected.
Hey,
What was my little brother?
if Michael wouldn't have tried to drink milk, his body probably wouldn't have revolted.
Is that what actually happens? I thought it just
Yeah.
happened randomly.
I
But
think
it
it was
happened
no.
like while see, this is why you don't drink out of the carton, kids.
yeah.
Not good.
They can consume human food once they're a full vampire, but not while they're converting.
I said, don't let the vegans hear you say that. Say, it's not human food. It's food for the cows' babies.
It's
But,
so
you know.
weird. It's so weird to me that as human beings, we drink the milk of other animals.
Yeah.
That first person who drank cow's milk must have been really brave.
Or
Up
it
in the
could have been
north.
like John. And
Well,
somebody
that's
said,
been
hey, man, I
happening
bet
since,
you won't
like,
drink that.
Beginning of time, basically.
Yeah, well, no, there had to be a first person though.
Just like
the
first
phrase-
person who ate the right mushroom as opposed
Yeah.
to the wrong mushroom.
I want to try that over there.
Yeah. for no good reason. So okay, so they end up at Grandpa's. They go down to the boardwalk. They're watching Timmy Capella play his famous song with his chains and chest.
I still believe
The oily chest with the
Mhm.
sweet sax and the rhythmic hip
Yeah.
thrust. Oh my God.
which I didn't know until I didn't know that that's actually a cover of an earlier song.
Yeah, I think
There
that's
are a
something
lot of
that Paul
covers in
did.
this movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
If you use the original version, I think my favorite one is Sound of Silence in old school. They wanted $85,000 to use that in the film.
Hmm.
But if you do a cover of it, you just basically pay publishing royalties and then you're pretty much good.
And then he sees Star.
And he's got that look on his face like, my God, her perm is just as glorious as my own. I must have it.
yes.
I had the biggest crush on Jamie. Is it Gertz or Getz or
Gertz.
Gertz? I had the biggest crush on her
Me too.
when that came out. I was just like,
Not when it came out because I wasn't alive yet, but later on.
Although I'm looking at Diane Wiest a little bit more.
Diane Wiest is so flippin' cute. Like,
Yeah.
I know she's like pretty much always playing mom characters.
Mhm.
But Diane Wiest is like adorable and not
she
just
is.
like, oh, that's a cute mom character, but like she's cute.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
I would flirt with Diane Wiest.
She's easy on the eyes. She has that very, kind of like warm, approachable thing going on. It's all very, sweet going there.
And very
Well, and
forgiving.
her character in this movie is very warm and compassionate and approachable. Like one of the first things that we see her do, besides like her kids going, oh, mom, is she sees a couple of kids dumpster diving when they first pull into the boardwalk, and she, tells her son, her younger son Sam, here's some cash, tell those kids to go get something to eat. And she says it without a hint of disdain in her voice.
Yeah.
And I was like, babe,
yeah.
you're
And
so nice.
And that's
And
the thing that I sit there and I'm like, that's something that I like about that particular character is that she's at not quite absolute zero, but she knows what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And she sees someone else in that position and then goes, yeah, I got a couple of bucks. Let's help out.
She's
exactly.
Establishes the character very well.
We're not the only ones to notice her niceness. Someone else takes notice of that too, but
They okay, so he begins flirting with his eyes with Star, and then she takes off and he follows her, and of course one of my favorite lines is I'm at the mercy of your sex glands, man.
My favorite line is there anything in this house that could pass for aftershave? How about some Windex, Grandpa? Okay, go ahead.
David shows up, uses his partially uses his whammy on her to get her to not go with
the
Michael.
Kiefer Sutherland whammy.
Yeah. Yep.
He has got that, like, he's got the whammy down. Like, we don't get to see his like truly seductive stare
It's
until a little bit later on. But man, he has it down.
Yeah, he really does.
I'm only like half paying attention because I'm taking notes while I'm watching this, and I still had to kind of stop later on when they're in the cave and he keeps saying Michael's name over and over again, like at the end of every sentence. And
Michael is uttered well over 100 times in this film.
I think it's 118.
But
Yeah,
wow, it
something
doesn't
like that.
annoy me.
Saying repeating someone's name is a classic seduction technique.
Well-
He should have been wary of this.
So it didn't annoy me I didn't even notice that. Unlike in Poltergeist 3, where they scream Carol Ann like probably the same number of times, but it's so noticeable
Different
that
context.
turn it into a drinking game almost. So,
Only if
Well-
you're really planning on dying of alcohol poisoning, but sure, go for it.
okay.
Well, you could do
What
that with
happens?
this
What
film,
happens when he uses the whammy on Star?
too. Well,
She's almost
you know,
gonna
of
go
course,
grab a bite to eat with Michael, but
yeah, and she, you know, just gravitates back to him, gets on the bike, and he's like, do you know where the bluff is on whatever point? And he goes, I can't beat your bike, man. And he says, you don't have to beat me, Michael. You just have to keep up. And takes off. And then they get down onto the sand and sail on into the night or whatever it's called. Comes on
Lost in the Shadows.
Lost in the Shadows
By Lou Graham. And usually that kind of MTV approach to making movies really kind of annoys me, but here it's fucking pitch perfect. They did something right. I don't know what it is, but
when you say MTV approach to movies, I'm unfamiliar with this concept.
Okay, so if you were watching MTV in the 80s, it was all music videos, and everyone's seen music videos, of course. But if you were seeing them on a 24-hour channel all the time, they kind of wallpaper kind of feeling. Individual videos might be good, but after you've seen 100 in a row,
I gotcha.
Yeah. So the movies, when they started to emulate the MTV style, for me anyway, kind of really got annoying. But there's a couple where it worked. Lost Boys is one, and I think Elm Street 4. But yeah.
There's
So
something about that MTV stylization back in the 80s and it's something that Joel Schumacher does a bit more tastefully, but it was something that, because you only had like 3 or 4 minutes in a music video to grab people's attention, the editing was really fast. But especially the thing that I noticed is that Schumacher has always had this great use of color, but his color more blends with things rather than.
Yeah, it doesn't pop out and look like a carnival scene, which is weird because there is kind of a carnival down at the boardwalk, but it doesn't have that same blast in your face color everywhere.
Because the thing that drove me nuts about MTV, and especially a lot of like the new wave videos and then later on the hair metal videos, was the like really high contrast, holy fuck color that kind of burnt out your retinas pretty quickly. And with Schumacher, the colors are really bright and very vivid, but they blend really well with the background and make it feel, I know I overuse this term a lot, but it's kind of hyper real. It makes things feel like it makes the moment feel a lot more like you're constantly in a state of like hyper awareness.
Anyway, so he gets on, what's wrong with you? And he goes off after David and punches him in the face and goes, just you, man, just you, man.
Like he's looking around like,
just
you. Not your friends, but also
I can't take all of you.
Romantic tension.
Yeah.
Yep. Just you, man.
There's kind of a budding love story between David and Michael in there that I think should be acknowledged.
Okay, I can see that. One thing that I noticed was that the reason the seduction of Michael kind of works is because it's functioning almost as two seductions. He's being seduced into the vampire cult without kind of knowing it, but he's also kind of being seduced into a biker gang that he is consciously choosing to become.
Oh, and they hit all the classics with that. They're on the motorcycles. They are smoking. They offer him a single fresh doobie.
Yeah.
They get him to drink wine.
Yeah.
Later on, they get him to jump off the train tracks and hang on while the train's going on overhead. Yeah. Like they're hitting all the classics. Don't join up with the gang, kids. Otherwise you'll become a vampire.
So one thing
I'm in.
One thing I'll point out is the whole that whole part of the first part of the seduction when they first get into the hotel. the Pedder
Underground.
Hotel.
Yeah.
Michael starts testing him, and
See if he's gonna wuss out.
he's not only testing him to see if he's going to wuss out, but he's testing him to see if his powers work on him, because he starts off really kind of subtle, you know, the whole maggots and worms thing. He just wants to see if he can have that mental influence over Michael, because if necessary, he can use that more effectively to continue the seduction if necessary.
Is he also?
See, I thought you were going in the direction of like not everybody can actually fall prey to a vampire's mesmerization tactics.
Right. That is actually what I was getting at. Is that he was testing to see if Michael was immune to his mind control.
So he's
where are you saying, Dan?
You know, he gets home after the first night after drinking the wine, and he's got his sunglasses on, and Grandpa's there with his sunglasses on.
Yeah, I guess I'm not the only one that got lucky last night.
Yeah,
hey, I love the Grandpa.
And then Michael starts to wander off, and Grandpa goes like that.
Yeah, I didn't.
He knows right then that Michael has been partially turned. At least I think that. I think because, you know, what we find out at the end, I think when you look at it, when you watch the movie from that standpoint, you see a lot of the actions of Grandpa that show that he suspected something.
Yeah.
You know, and
Grandpa's been through this bullshit before.
I noticed, like, I don't know what it was because I've never gotten this read on it when I've watched this movie before, but this time, just around every other corner, it felt like inspiration from Labyrinth. And this is like inspired by Labyrinth down to like the sexy, you know, otherworldly synth, but also adding in, you know, an actual choir, except instead of this time a gospel choir, it's a boys choir. But during the wine drinking scene, like not just the whole visual sequence of it being like, oh my God, this heady feeling of inebriation. It completely mirrors the drugged peach scene in Labyrinth, but the music that's playing also sounds like exactly like that track that was kind of a what am I saying? A collaboration between can't remember his first name, Jones, the composer on Labyrinth,
Howard
and
Jones.
David. Really?
Yeah.
Howard Jones, right? Trevor Jones.
Oh,
Trevor
yeah.
Jones. There
Trevor
we go.
Jones. Yeah. Trevor Jones.
So that song is like the music that plays over the drugged peach scene sounds like a collaboration between Trevor Jones and David Bowie, because it's sort of a lead into the David Bowie song As the World Falls Down. But like again, it's got that otherworldly sort of crystalline synth glissando action happening, but also sweet sexy sax. And then you've got him doing like The Fall, which looks kind of cool when I'm on the green screen like this. And then he lands in his bed like, did it really happen? We'll never know. I mean, we do find out, but it's exactly like Sarah's thing with the drugged peach. I'm like, and Paul over here is fucking doing a Jareth cosplay with his fluffy blonde hair, his tight pants, and his knee-high boots. I want to see a side-by-side comparison, Dan.
I
do.
I love how Michael is falling and
the movie's very clever about how it handles the flying things.
And then he goes.
I think what happened is Richard Donner made Superman, and then he said, "You'll believe a man can fly." And then he looked at some of the effects, and he's like, "Yeah." So that when he did it in Lost Boys, he was like, "Okay, we're gonna cut around everything," you know.
Oh yeah.
All right. So I was wrong. It was both a Labyrinth fall, but also an Alice in Wonderland fall. Where no, it's here. Well, actually, now that I'm falling, look at all this shit.
Yeah, and the title very obviously refers to Peter Pan. This started out as kind of a Peter Pan
tribute.
So
Well, it started off
I'm not
because
mad.
No,
she
me neither.
mentioned it. Originally, it was a Richard Donner project, but it was in development hell for so long that eventually, when the film, he switched over to being the producer and then turned the film over to Joel Schumacher. And I think he was the better choice.
Apparently, the script for this was so altered by Schumacher that that there really wasn't very much of a script, and Jason Patrick actually was one of the driving forces behind the movie that we see, because he helped Schumacher so heavily in the forming of the story to make it more adult oriented rather than child oriented. So we could thank Jason Patrick for a certain percentage of the incredible script.
I think that's what makes it work, is that it still retains a lot of that Goonies element that it started with. And but it also has the adult thing. And I think that's what made me turn the sequels off before I even finished, is because it's a purely adult movie. There's no but Lost Boys is like a synthesis. It's like a synthesis between, like, Donner had made the Goonies 2 years earlier with Feldman.
So it's perfect for the teenagers who are not yet a man, not quite a boy.
It was perfect for that time for it to come out at our age. We were all like, what, 15 or 16.
Yeah,
and
but that was also,
target audience.
I mean, that's definitely also the metaphor that goes all the way through there, is that transition from childhood into adolescence into adulthood. And I mean, that's the overwhelming arching theme throughout the entire, throughout the entire film.
Yeah, it's not quite Stand By Me, but it's.
I prefer this to Stand By Me because Jamie Gertz.
I prefer this to Stand By Me because Kiefer Sutherland is less of an asshole by being more of an asshole.
Right.
He's a bit more honest about who he is at that point. Yeah.
So, I think okay, we were kind of talking about the underlying story of this whole thing, and what the origins and things were of what's actually happening behind the story. And I don't mean behind the scenes, I mean behind the story.
Yeah.
So we have the head vampire, Max, and he is the owner or manager of the
video store.
The video store, and he sees Mom outside the video store helping a child that is lost. She brings him in, and he's touched by that. He's like,
"You're perfect.
I really need somebody like this in my eternity." And so
what my vampire kill cult needs is a little more compassion.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember which one of you said, poor Diane Weiss. She's trying so hard to be in a romantic comedy, but her boys are just fucking it up.
Yeah, it's true.
Like there is a romance to this story, and it is not Michael and Star, even though that's when we first get to hear, like the iconic line from Cry Little Sister. Yeah. The true romance is between Lucy and Max.
Right.
And it's a tragic love story because Max doesn't make it.
So head vampire decides that he wants, Max decides that he wants Lucy, and has decided that to get Lucy, he needs to go through the children.
To be fair, it's a very clever plan.
Yeah, and so he gets his minions, aka the Lost Boys, to go after first Michael, and then it was going to be Michael's job to go after Sam and get them converted. Problem is, the Lost Boys already have two thralls. They've got Laddie and they've got Star, who they haven't been able to convince to completely cross over yet. So I don't even think
is Laddie not full-on vampire? I mean,
no.
I know Star says that they haven't fully turned her and Laddie because she says, Michael, you're not like them. You're like me and Laddie. Right. But at one point, and it's
Laddie vamps
one of my favorite parts in the movie, he does get full-on vamp face and is, now that I think about it, wearing a jacket kind of like mine.
Yeah, he totally vamps out. But that's
But I guess that's the thing you can do when you're a half vampire.
Yeah, if you're a half vampire, you can still
at the end
vamp
of the
out
movie,
to a
doesn't he?
certain point. Yeah, he does.
And John,
Anyway, Star and Laddie.
Yeah, but
You were saying.
yeah, Star and Laddie are still not completely converted. I don't even think Max knows this yet, because I mean, there's all kinds of you know, a little bit of anxiety in that vampire family there. You know, they like to antagonize Max, just for shits and giggles. It seems.
is that what
you know
they
know their
did?
place. They know their place, but they also like to, and I think part of it is defending him by acting like they're, you know, antagonizing him. But I think that they also really enjoy it, because otherwise there would have been absolutely no reason for them to fly that vampire kite into him.
John,
yeah, but I think that part of it is also, again, we're going with that whole allegory of like adolescence into adulthood, and you spend a lot of time when you're in that adolescent period testing your boundaries with your family and all of that, right, to establish your own identity. And I think that there's a mixture of those two elements going on throughout the whole thing.
Sure.
John, is David, do you think David is the most son-like character for Max?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But he also, you know, he's very loyal to him, although like Dave said, you know, he's testing his boundaries, but he's very loyal to him because he knows what the plan is. Otherwise, they probably would have killed the family already. But Star and Laddie don't even know about Max. And that leads me to believe that Max doesn't know about them either. Not that has a whole lot to do with anything, but
that opens up a possibility. Is maybe David a little embarrassed that he hasn't been able to turn them yet and doesn't want to reveal it to Max yet?
It's possible. I don't think that really has a whole lot of impact on the story either way, but just from a background standpoint, I think that's definitely it. He does not seem jealous of the fact that the Max wants him to convert Michael so badly, or anything like that. He really wants Michael to be one of them, and he gives him so many chances, probably for a few reasons, you know, because Max would kick his ass if he didn't, but also because he genuinely seems like he wants another brother, you know. And
he likes his moxie. He likes the cut of his jib.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And he would have made a good Lost Boy. He would have made a very good Lost Boy.
He had enough gumption to go after Star, who is like clearly at least a little bit going out with or you know, she has some sort of allegiance to David. Because, you know, Michael sees the two of them together a number of times before he asks her out to go get something to eat. And then what happens? David does it after, you know, he uses his whammy, as Dan put it, to get Star to come back. He doesn't say to Michael, "I better not see you anywhere near my girl again." He says,
"Right,
come with us."
I don't think he minds at all. Because when they do sleep together, they're
David and Michael
little
romance.
No, I meant Star and Michael.
That's in the sequel.
When they finally sleep together and they're laying in that little alcove, I think Star would have known how dangerous that would have been for Michael if David came back and saw that, if there was any kind of jealousy of any kind.
But at that point, she was supposed to kill him.
She says later on, "You were supposed to be my first."
Right.
I couldn't do it. Your perm and my perm were meant to sleep next to each other for the rest of our lives.
Hair like that is mated for life. That's
I think Joel Schumacher was trying to help Jason Patrick get the role of Jim Morrison in The Doors, because he did try out for it. And there's a shot in this movie where Jason Patrick is superimposed over a poster of Jim Morrison in the background. It's almost like Schumacher tried really hard to, you know, like they had a plan. I'm going to get you that part in The Doors.
Now, I have a feeling that when David told Star that he was to be her first, I think he was lying to her, because I don't think she was really supposed to kill him. I think that was a plot, a ploy to get, Michael closer, and because he knew that was the plan. Max's plan all along was to convert Michael and then have Michael go after Sam.
So David's, forgive me, raising the stakes. I'm not sorry.
I forget I don't have to do this because I can do a drum roll later.
That does make sense though, because I mean, like,
Yeah.
if you establish an emotional bond between Michael and someone else in the group, which it's fine, it's not going to happen between David and Michael. Okay, that's fine. Star then. How about Star? You like Star, right? Huh? You like Star? Well, if you don't become a vampire, then we'll kill her.
Yeah, the other possibility is that David was actually keeping them half vampires, sort of as familiars or daywalkers, basically, so that if they needed things done during the day, they could get it done.
Well, that, and they're kind of like the gateway drug, as it were, because like, hey, no, come on, these guys are vampires, and they're not like disgusting, terrifying creatures of the night.
Yeah, well, and they're also very good bait. A child and
a child
beautiful woman.
and a young girl.
I want to know who the dickhead was that bit Laddie, because I know David wouldn't do it. It seems like a really big risk to take to add a child to your group, because people are going to be looking for him a lot harder.
I saw something about that, actually. Or go ahead, John, and then, because it might be the same thing I was going to say.
No worries. I was just going to say that Laddie was never bitten. Neither was Star. They were fed David's blood, just like Michael was. In this genre, biting is for eating, it seems, and that you convert them by first feeding them your blood, and then having them drink someone else's.
Would David have been the one to feed the blood to him, or would somebody else have done it?
Yeah, it had to have either been David or Max.
So it was
because they're all under his thrall.
It was a conscious decision to bring a child into the group.
Well, and it's interesting that you brought that up. Like, it's kind of a risky move to bring a kid into the group. Like, they generally try to pick off people who don't have any family, or there's a plausible reason for them to go missing. But I've seen it speculated upon that Laddie either had kind of absent parent figures, or he was already getting into a lot of trouble, although he seems pretty meek. So I'm gonna go with the very absent parent figure side of things, because like, I don't think they just picked him up. I think they had to lure him back to the cave, because it's sort of a you have to say yes kind of thing. We can't just turn you into a vampire. We have to bring you in, and you have to drink this of your own accord. So there had to be something going on in Laddie's life where there was some kind of appeal to getting involved with a gang element.
He was maybe injured. Star found him and couldn't let him die. So brought him back for David to turn.
There's definitely
some bullies pushed him off the pier, and he knocked his head really bad. And I like this new headcanon. That's where Laddie
does feel like a big sister to him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
he's constantly retreating back to her. She's his mother figure, protector.
And it's explained in the second sequel where they are. They're not in the movie, but in the second sequel, the Thirst, they explain that Star is married and has kids, and Laddie is off doing his. Oh no, Laddie I think was dead at that point.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
I read as I was kind of scrolling through things. I didn't want to look too much at the sequels, but it seems the Frog Brothers like offered to take Laddie in as an apprentice to their vampire hunting biz. Yeah. Is there any credence to that? Those of you who have seen sequels?
I know that Sam continued to hunt with them after all of this. And Sam ended up being killed by a vampire. And Edgar Frog actually had to end him because vampirism is in America is referred to as a pyramid scheme, because they can, it's always this endless chain of trying to find the original US vampire, and that it never will come to an end. So Alan falls out with Edgar, partially because he is turned into a vampire, and second because he wanted to leave it all behind at that point. Because he thought, well, there's no chance that we'll ever find the head vampire, and you should have just killed me when you had a chance.
You reminded me of a gripe that I wanted to make.
Okay, gripe away.
Edgar and Alan Frog were, named for Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
And then they spelled Alan's name with only one L. It's two L's. I'm very upset about this.
My gripe, which I mentioned to Dave before the show, is that Christian Slater did Jack Nicholson in Heathers and then became Jack Nicholson for the rest of his career. And Corey Feldman did Clint Eastwood for this movie and stayed Clint Eastwood for the rest of his career.
It wasn't Clint Eastwood. It was John Rambo.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I can totally see that.
Schumacher before he got the role. Because he went and did his
that's even funnier to me that he was Rambo and he stuck with it afterwards.
Yeah.
If
Rambo were to kill vampires, he would look and sound exactly like me.
Yeah. He went and did his audition, and Schumacher pulled him aside and said, I'm gonna hire you for this film, but I want you to go and rent the Rambo movies, and I think maybe a Clint Eastwood movie was in there, possibly, I don't know, but and said, and that's what I want to hear from you. So he became, and I mean, we're talking down to the red bandana tied around his head.
Yeah,
he was the Rambo figure, and he kind of stuck with that.
It's something that when you sit there, it also goes with that kind of like bravado that goes hand in hand with like early adolescence and childhood. Where you're like, I am the toughest, bravest, et cetera, because you've never really experienced what real terror and real trauma is like.
Well, that even happens
in the movie. Yeah,
Sam and the two Frog brothers are around going, "Yes, we're the most badass." And then Laddie comes railing through the bed,
and they're holding each other like they're.
Do you get the idea that these are actually the first vampires that they've killed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely.
I don't know. They're on the right track. They know, but
they know something's up. They know something's up. Sorry.
I have a feeling that they may have offed one or two vampires by happenstance.
Yeah.
Easily.
Like accidentally
in the past. Yeah. Like
they opened the door, the sun came in, no more vampires.
And then they thought it was all going to be that easy, and that's why they run in with so much confidence.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So I was gonna say, which brings us kind of to like where it starts to all where it all coalesces into. They decide they want to get Star back, so they go and attack the Vampire Cove.
Wait! You're jumping too far ahead.
Okay, John, reel me back in.
We have to come to the subclimax of the movie. The subclimax of the movie is when David and the Lost Boys take Michael to his first feeding, and they go and they attack that camp of Run DMC.
DMC walk this way.
Yeah, bonfire kids, and they attack them out of the tree. From the very first time that I saw this movie, and even this morning and on Monday when I watched it, I still find myself saying to Michael when he's in that tree, "Oh man, just go do it. Just go do it." I would have done it. I would have been a vampire at that point. I mean, I would have just been, make the offering because I'm there.
John
I
has
would
been
have been
seduced.
I would have been a vampire in high school if I could have been. I used to sit and dream about,
Immortality,
finding a real
and
vampire.
technically eternal youth, as long as you keep drinking blood.
As long as
sure.
you don't get
I'll
so
figure
close,
out a way around this.
as long as you never get close enough to someone to have proper problems with killing them.
Or turning them into the same unholy creature that you are.
Damning them
guys,
with the same thing you're dealing with.
Blokes. If I were a vampire right now, all three of you would be vampires right now.
Oh, 100%.
I would have definitely. Okay, so
you wouldn't have even had the
so that's the official pact in the group. If one of us becomes vampires, we're embracing the other three.
Oh, absolutely.
All right,
I would have made my first flight out to Omaha a long time ago, and that would have been Dave and Kat.
Well, you wouldn't.
And Dan,
I already have the incredibly pale skin of a vampire.
I thought you were going to say the eternal youthful looks.
Oh, I mean, well, I stay out of the sun.
Yes. But Dan would have been a vampire, decades ago.
Yeah, well, then I could have avoided all of this stuff here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Do you never get to grow facial hair if you have no facial hair when you're turned into a vampire?
You can, unless you're
never
too young
gray.
unless it wouldn't look like this.
Yeah.
I'd be dyeing my hair the same color it is now. So, we would be the Lost Blokes.
I think it was Dan who mentioned earlier the inspiration for the name, at least, and maybe like the general concept was based off of Peter Pan. And I really do love that because I mean we always think of Peter Pan as being kind of a light and happy thing where Peter Pan comes and takes you away and you are young forever. But if you think about it a little bit more, and then if you digest any of the works, any of dozens of works that have been based on Peter Pan that kind of take a little bit of a darker look at it, like, no, he fucking steals children.
Yes.
And he doesn't let them grow up. And this is one of those kind of dark twists on it because yes, they do kind of take away these kids who are struggling in some sense within their own lives, and they don't want to grow up. They want to be young and have fun forever, and that's exactly what happens when you become the vampire.
Well, Twilight Zone, the movie, has that kick the can episode, which is sort of a Twilight Zone deal.
Oh, yeah.
Where all these elderly people who are playing kick the can because this guy brought this magical power there, they're all elderly people that all turn into children again. And there's one guy who, a lot of them decide that they don't want to do it again because they don't want to relive all of the, whenever we romanticize being young again, we always romanticize the best parts of it. But I don't want to deal with losing my grandma again. I don't want to deal with this again and that. So there's always a trade-off, in these kind of stories. If you're embracing youth, even in the story, they get to stay young forever, but they're damned to kill people. And
yep.
So it doesn't sound as enticing to me as it does to John, but I guess being part of the Blokes,
you just have more foresight.
I'll go along with it, I guess. Because
what did I miss?
I said it doesn't sound as enticing to me. Just basically talking about how I wouldn't want to relive a lot of my youth.
You don't have to relive it. You can restructure it.
Well, he doesn't want to be stuck in.
Yeah, I think it's a story about being stuck. I think
I'd be fine with that. Yeah, but I'd be fine with that. I would be okay being 18 or 17 forever.
It's not just being
think
stuck.
About it. I kind of embraced that fashion sense that Corey Haim had when I was in high school after sophomore year, kind of. But I wouldn't have stuck with that. I would have kind of, if I had been a vampire, I would have, been more like my junior senior year with the trench coat and the long hair. And
I embraced all of those styles too. I actually had the mullet from David. I tried to do the Jason Patrick wavy, beautiful hair. I couldn't quite get it. But now I feel more like Grandpa.
Well, and it's okay.
Look, let's face it. If I'm going to grow old, I'm going to grow old as disgracefully as Grandpa, and I'm going to love every second of it.
Grandpa's pretty cool. He does taxidermy. He's got a really hot car. He knows how to kill vampires.
He never leaves.
He kills vampires with a fucking attitude. Let me get this straight. You put a giant tree trunk of a fucking stake on your truck and then ran a vampire through? Mad props, dude. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And then they figure out what's going on. And all along, we have Sam and the Frog Brothers plotting on how to find the head vampire. So Max comes over for dinner, and we'll notice at that point, with Max coming over for dinner, Grandpa decides to retreat to his taxidermy room, because I think he knows that Max is a vampire, but doesn't want Max to see him, because he probably has hunted vampires in this town for a long time.
He may have encountered him before.
Yeah, and then he just so happens to be building these giant wooden stakes. They test Max, and here we come to another break in the usual vampire lore that was built around this movie, is that you don't necessarily have to invite a vampire in, but if you do, you become powerless to them. In other words, they will appear as human they are immune to things like holy water and
garlic
and stuff like that. Seeing
they have a reflection.
Right.
They can be photographed.
Right. So
as though they were just another human.
And they have really kind of embarrassingly hip 80s garb for,
Right?
Okay, go ahead.
I love the
styling. Why do you
go out of
think
style?
Lucy is so attractive?
The rest of them are fine, but he really reads as somebody, I think it's intentional. He reads as somebody who's trying to appear younger because he works in a video store that's on the boardwalk. So he's got to dress the part.
He's hip.
Yeah. But I don't think he
Smash
actually
his face in cereal bowl.
So Max comes over, and they do all this, and he goes, I think I know what's going on here. And the Frog Brothers are like, oh shit. He's like, I'm not going to replace your father. And they're like, so he goes away, and they think that then David is the head vampire. So at that point, they begin to stage their attack, and they get their weapons ready. They go into that Catholic church. They go to the Catholic church to get their holy water while there's a baptism going on up front. I love it. Yeah. I love it. They're like
Catholics.
Reminds me of the scene in Boondock Saints at the very beginning, where they walk up in the middle of Mass, kiss the feet of Jesus' statue, and then walk off. And like the priest is like, and the other priests are like, it's cool. We know these guys.
Yeah, it's like, of course you're going to have to go and get holy water somehow, but where else are you going to go? And well, sorry we disturbed your baptism.
I just want to point out that both John and I are ordained ministers, and we can bless water for you if you need to.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
Yes. Absolutely.
So what you're saying is, if Dave or I are the ones who become vampires first, we should watch out for you too.
No.
No, we won't.
You say that, but
our water blessing offer expires
right
here, yo. Vampires.
Right here. Put it
on me. We don't do that here, John. You must drink.
Oh yeah, well that too.
Early and often.
No two vampires go out the same. Sometimes they just fade away, and sometimes they explode.
And
So, but
sometimes
it's
they
never
implode.
pretty. Yeah, sometimes they explode, sometimes they implode, but it's never pretty. And so they climb up into this air shaft that they find, and Alex Winter gets it first, and he slimes this nasty, like petroleum based blood everywhere. And I will point out that this builds the canon that under certain circumstances, vampires will sparkle because their blood sparkles. When they leave that cave and they get out of David's hands, they get David to burn himself in the sun. They get out in the sun, and those motherfuckers are sparkling like
You thought, we're getting out of this without a Twilight reference?
That's right.
I think you just put Nesbitt into a coma.
Yeah, David.
Dave.
Sorry, man, but it was very clear that blood was sparkly, and if you've got enough sun coming down, it's going to show through the skin and make them sparkle. So my decade-long hate of Twilight was
apparently unfounded.
Was actually unfounded, and
well,
I noticed that
up in the card there, Dan, you've got to put Dear Stephanie Meyer from Lindsay Ellis, where we all make our apologies. Saying we gave you undue hate.
I don't mind. One of my I never minded Twilight. I figured it was good for what it was.
Yeah, David has something to say
about horror films. Is one called Faculty of Horror, and they just did about a 2-hour long episode on the Twilight series, and they definitely discussed a lot of the elements of the hate that went into that. And to me, it was a lot less about the fandom or this or that, but to me, I think a lot of my hate toward that is more directed at the story is aimed at the wrong kind of supernatural being. I'm just saying that Edward is not a vampire. He's a dark fae. I'm cool with that, but I mean, I'm the guy who grew up with like Lestat and Vampire the Masquerade and the Sabbat and all of those things. So to me, it's like major vampire, blasphemy.
I don't know. I think maybe you're just not the audience that Stephanie was writing for.
I'm the From Dusk Till Dawn vampire guy who says interviews. Who says vampires, no interviews.
I'm for all vampires, even the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Paul Rubens vampire I absolutely loved. So vampires in general I really get along with and get on with and would like to get it on with. And it goes back to the universal poly hand thing that I was talking about a few weeks back. But anyway, so they take
I think
Alex
I think I have a book for you, John. The New Vampire's Handbook, a guide for the recently turned creature of the night.
Oh, good. That sounds interesting.
It's one of my favorite books on my shelves.
So they escape barely. Sam escapes barely with his life, and David is burned. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when David recoils in pain from the sun and a single tear drops down his face. That is like my absolute favorite. That's like the quintessential vampire motif right there. But they escape, they regroup, they get Laddie and Star out of there. Then the scene occurs that you all talked about earlier, where Laddie comes up through the bed, and then they have to start defending the house because the Lost Boys are on their way. And
Mom is going to come for them all.
Right. Mom is out with Max, And again, she is recalled from her date because of a ruckus at the house.
Total cock blocking from the kids again.
Yes, again.
The woman
Mom's
is
sitting there
just
going, about my rom-com, why are
just-
you two making this into a horror film? The fuck's wrong with you?
Right. But you know, and you know, it's probably better that they cock blocked Max the whole time, because otherwise we'd have a bigger problem to deal with.
Blood sucking Brady Bunch.
They take out the dude in the water first, in the bathtub, which
Paul's
absolutely
death.
Oh my god.
The death of Paul, the Goblin King, is the best death out of all the vamps.
Yes.
And as we wrap up here, I want to hear everybody's favorite vamp death.
That's mine. It made the cover of Fangoria too. So
It
that was
fully fucks the plumbing. I mean,
I know,
wow.
right? Like, it doesn't just, like, it's a good jump scare when the Frog Brothers, they're like, is he dead yet? Oh shit!
So he goes out first, and then Sam takes out I can't remember their exact names.
Is it Marco?
No, Marco was the first to go.
With Sam's suddenly acquired archery skills.
Yeah, his sudden archery skills,
Which
death
I
by
disbelieve in, by the
stereo.
way. Nobody
Yeah.
acquires the arm strength and the precision necessary for a strike, even at that close a range. Because I know he misses the first time.
It does have to be directly in the heart.
With that
Yeah.
much momentum to fully pierce through a human being, you're going to need
Yeah.
a lot of momentum from that. And he didn't pull back far enough of that. And he didn't, like, there are no casual archers,
but it
okay?
does-
There are people who are into archery and there are people who are not into archery.
But-
And Sam isn't into archery.
No, but it's all redeemed by the line "Death by stereo."
Death
Yes.
by stereo.
That is a
All right, so then we have those two gone, and then all we have left is David, and there was the epic fight between David and Michael.
Yep.
Which was awesome.
Flying around the air of the barn.
Yeah, and not even I think it could have been much longer, but I love how Michael is holding on to the door frame, and what's the line when he lets go the door frame, flips him around, and puts him onto the
He says,
antlers.
"Your blood is in my veins." He goes, "Well, so is mine."
So it's
yeah,
fine.
that's right. And he flips him around and impales him on the antlers, which apparently kills vampires as well. And
Or does it?
Or does it? Yeah, but then
Apparently
Max
Because
shows
he didn't
up.
burst into
Apparently
flames. He didn't turn to dust. He didn't explode. He didn't implode.
He might not be
David
dead, but
David
he's
was not supposed to be dead at the end of this because he was supposed to come back in the sequel that never got made, The Lost Girls.
Max shows up with Mom, and he's like, "Oh, I believe my boys have misbehaved," and
Dear
he's like,
me.
"What are you talking about?" And then the whole thing of there has to be an exchange, and he gets a hold of Max, and he has this.
Oh yeah, he's got a
Or he gets hold of
monologue.
Sam. Yeah,
He's got to tell you all his master plan.
right, exactly. And the mother says, it's either you come with me or I take out the boy with my pinky, my Casanova Frankenstein pinky. And
Don't fight it, Lucy. It's so much better when you don't fight.
Yeah.
The
And,
only bloodsucker to ever say that. The rest of them are like, no, please do scream.
she
It's more
does.
fun when you
She
scream.
does offer herself up.
Yeah.
To save her.
So
Of
son
course
pretty
she
quickly.
does.
She does,
because
of
she's
course,
the
for her
most
son.
compassionate woman ever.
And comes through and pales Max. Max goes into the fireplace, and this huge ethereal fire explosion occurs, and
There were sparkles everywhere.
and the head vampire's dead. Michael feels better. Laddie feels better.
Star feels better.
Star feels better. But then we have kind of the end, but the famous final line of the only thing I ever hated about Santa Clara is all the damn vampires.
Dave, you spoke about sitting somewhere and listening to the soundtrack all the time.
Yeah. A bunch of friends of mine and I would gather and hang out on the breakers on Lake Michigan in Kenosha County, Wisconsin, where we would pull out the boombox because everybody had a copy of that damn soundtrack. Because
Why wouldn't you though? It's awesome.
Front to back, there's no bad songs on that.
No.
But we would sit there and Cry Little Sister sounds fucking amazing after 3 beers, sitting on the rocks and hearing that thing echo back over the waves as they're coming back.
I always was a little disappointed that first line of the movie over the Warner Brothers logo, where it's one person's a child singing "Cry Little Sister." Yep. I was always mad that wasn't on the album because that's the perfect intro to that track.
I have been really tempted to sit there and just sample that chorus and then drop some even more reverb on it and make it sound like it was coming in off the series of waves and then bring it in closer in an edit. That would be absolutely worth the money to pay for how much it would cost to license that fucking song.
Yeah. That album was sort of my intro to I think that album prepared me for listening to Pink Floyd and listening to Nirvana, and I think that was the album that went from me listening to Richard Marx and stuff like that to actually listening to real music.
Yeah.
Hey,
anything wrong with Richard Marx, but
if it's musical and you enjoy it, it's
I still
music
listen
that you could enjoy.
I still listen to the Muppet movie soundtrack, so I'm not saying anything. But I'm just saying
the Muppet movie soundtrack is amazing. I own it on vinyl.
Nice.
So
this was a turning point musically for me. Is this soundtrack?
Right.
And not only musically, but this was the quintessential turning point for vampire movies as well. This was the very kind of first occurrence of the
resurgence
of the sexy
in the mainstream
modern fruity vampire clan that's really cool rockers and all that kind of stuff. It led to Joss Whedon's Angel, and certainly was an influence on Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh hell yeah.
So
you just know that at one point in time in all of Spike's travels, he hung out with this gang in LA.
But being as it is, I give this a triple threat press play. For being plays. the head vampire film of vampire films, modern vampire films.
Dave, did you like it?
Well, it's only a fucking classic. Jesus Christ, front to back, it's one of the very few, to my mind, perfect vampire films. I love the overall sense of style. I love the sense of music. I love the music. I love the cinematography. Everything about it, to me, worked. It also happened at just the absolute perfect point in time in my life to really absorb that. And so it is a moment in time captured for me in a film form. So yeah, totally press play early and often.
Yeah. I've watched it probably 100 times. I love it every time I watch it. I don't get sick of it. Some of the comedy is kind of awkward and doesn't land, but some of the comedy is great. It kind of evens out all just everything. I love that it looks like even though Richard Donner didn't make it, and it's probably good that he didn't. Schumacher did a better job, I think, than Donner, or at least it's a much different movie than Donner would have made. Let's put it that way. It could have been good under Donner, but it would have been a different movie. But the fact that it looks like Lethal Weapon, but it's got monsters and gore, that's perfect to me. And this, along with The Hidden and a couple other movies in '87, this is part of what made '87 a banner year. Press play.
Unlike all of you, I was not alive when this movie came out, so I never got to see it on the big screen. Which I'm surprised I've never seen it at an Alamo screening. This absolutely seems like a movie that Alamo would love to play. But I've seen it maybe half a dozen times, and I've loved it every time. Just because it's some of the special effects a lot of people might call hokey nowadays. I think they're I don't think they're not overdone. That's what I like about it. The use of special effects in this movie for a vampire movie are actually pretty light. Like there's a little bit of SFX makeup, and you have the occasional rising up and flying kind of action sequence, and there's a lot of wind blowing sometimes, but for the most part, it all appears pretty low key in my opinion, and I think that's one of the things that makes it work. Is it's not totally an overblown, like we're going to spend all of our budget on the special effects kind of film. And for a film that includes an element of the supernatural, like vampires, like this does, it does a fantastic job with its special effects budget. It didn't go too all out, didn't go too all crazy. Yeah. Definitely press play. Even if you aren't watching it for nostalgic purposes, this is, I think, a very good look into that era, not just in filmmaking, but just kind of like as a general culture. And the villains in this movie, apart from, like David is definitely giving me some bisexual energy. And he can give it to me any time, day or night. But even there, like it's not like a gay villain thing. And even though I love gay villains, this movie seems really unique to me from the time that it came from. Like I see almost nothing in this movie where I'm just like, that aged poorly.
Well, it's weird because there's something very 80s about it, but it also doesn't feel dated. It
right.
It's weird.